what is positive about the yoga system is the analysis of psychology. So let's discuss this for a few moments. The analysis of psychology. Patanjali has said, Yogas chitta vritti nirodha. He gave the definition of yoga. He said yoga means to arrest the modifications, the fluctuations, the whirlpools and eddies, the ripples in the lake of your mind. If the mind is like a lake, then we see that when the surface of water is disturbed, if you throw stones into water, then you cannot get a clear reflection of anything. But when the water starts to become calm, then a reflection appears. This morning I was sitting and meditating on the bank of one lake. And there was a gentle breeze blowing, and the gentle breeze was just making slight ripples in the surface of the water. And so, the trees were reflected on the surface of the lake. They were reflected, but it was somewhat distorted, just slightly distorted. And had the water been completely still, then there would be a crystal clear mirror image of the trees in the water. So, in the same way, Patanjali said, our mind is like that. If the mind is in a state of perfect equilibrium, then you will have a very clear, conscious perception of yourself, reflected. The soul is reflected, its nature is reflected in the mind. But if the mind is oscillating, if the mind is modulating, disturbed, the ripples are there, then if the ripples are very slight, you start to get a clue. Oh, you start to have a clue about your nature, some intuition will come. But if the disturbance is pronounced, then you have a completely distorted impression of who you are. So Patanjali said that Sarupavasthanam. If the mind is in a state of equilibrium, then you will be situated in consciousness of your swarup, your true nature. Tada drastuhu sarupavasthanam. At that time, the seer, the witness, is situated in his true nature. It's so important to understand our position of witnesshood. Patanjali says, drastuhu means the seer. Another word in Sanskrit is shakshitva, shakshi. Shakshi means the witness. We are not the participants in this world. This body is not the self. It is external. Just like the street out there. But just as the street out there is external to your body, so seemingly the mind is also external, just like the street out there, in relation to Atma, the self. All your thoughts, feelings, ideas, attachments, aversions, likes, dislikes, allegiances to family, nation, planet, all of these are in the mind. Temporary things. But the self is distinct from them. So when the mind is in equilibrium, tada drastu surupavasthani, one experiences, I am eternal, timeless being. Satchidananda, full of consciousness and full of joy. But if the mind is disturbed, Patanjali said then, vritti sarupyam, what will happen? You will be immersed in identification with the motions of the material energy. You think that it's you. You think that you are young, or old, or black, or white, or male, or female. And whatever, by the law of karma, pops up into your mind, you think that was me, I just made that choice. Hey everyone, I just had a good idea. was not your idea, it was not your thought. It was only a ripple in the lake of the mind, coming as the echo of past karmas, impelling us to create more karmas. And in this way, to extend our visa in the cycle of birth and death. So it's extremely important to learn how to calm the mind, make the mind peaceful. Patanjali and his main disciple also, Vyas, in his commentary on the sutras, explain there are 5 stages of disturbance or the lack thereof in our consciousness. So the first stage is called Mudha. Mudha means stupefied. That is the time when Tamagun, the mode of ignorance, the mode of darkness, the mode of inertia is prominent within the mind. That's the time when you've had a really late night. But anyway, the next morning you have to get up and go to work. And you wake up and not so much brain activity. That's when coffee is necessary. Why? Because all types of intoxicants are rajasic. They create rajas in the mind. So then you have a cup of coffee and the mind that was dull suddenly springs to life. Personality makeover. And you become that person everyone knows and loves, which really isn't you. So, what happens when the mind becomes rajasic, passionate? Then it cannot focus on one thing. It's jumping here and there from one thing to another. So that's the next stage. After Mudha, the next stage is called Kshipta. Kshipta literally means in Sanskrit thrown. Thrown here and there. Hello Bill, how are you doing today? Oh, look, a chicken. Mind is going everywhere. So, in that state, there's no such thing as meditation. There's no such thing as yoga. The next state, Mudha, Kshipta, then Vikshipta. Vikshipta means more sattva gun has come, the mode of goodness, equilibrium. Persons who are sattvic in the mode of goodness, they're more calm, more peaceful, they have concentration, they can think deeply. They're not prone to quarrel with others. They're not prone to be in conflicts with others or be envious of them in any way. They try to see everyone equally. So, this stage Vikshipta is essentially concentration is there, but with momentary lapse of concentration, moments of distraction. But by and large, it's fairly concentrated. So it's sattva with a little rajas is still present. So these 3 states, Mudha, Kshipta and Vikshipta, in these 3 states even yoga is not possible. You're not doing yoga. You can be doing gymnastics, but not yoga. Yoga, according to the sutras of Patanjali, begins in the next stage. The next stage is called Ekagrata. Ekagrata. Chitta. Eka means one and agra means point. Ekagrata chitta. One pointed attention. It's a stage where Tamagun has gone, Rajas has practically gone. There's hardly any Rajas at all. Only the Sattvic Vikar, some slight transformation, predominated by Sattva Gun is there. Not full Sattva, because Sattva itself is inert. It has no movement. But almost Sattvic. In the state of Ekagrata, concentration, there yoga begins. It's the first type of samadhi. There are two, Sampragyata Samadhi and then Asampragyata Samadhi. So the Sampragyata Samadhi, this samadhi is available in the stage of ekagrata, one-pointedness. Now, in one-pointedness, the mind takes on qualities that the ordinary person, they cannot imagine. They cannot even dream of. It's just like, you know, the sun's shining today and it's very pleasant. But if you take a magnifying glass and hold it by some leaves, then the rays of the sun which were dispersed become focused on one point. And even the mild sun on a pleasant day becomes capable of lighting fire very quickly. So in the same way, when our consciousness isn't distributed everywhere, between our car and our kids and our job and the TV and our Facebook, and when the consciousness is focused in one place, it takes on astonishing qualities. So in that stage of ekagrata, an ability comes, it is called samapati. You see, if I say, please imagine an orange, then you can close your eyes and you can see an orange in your mind. But it's not very steady. It's not very still. You can't really taste it or really touch it. You have a vague idea because the consciousness is not steady. In the stage of ekagrata, when the person meditates on something, that object in its completeness manifests totally in their consciousness. That capability is there. Why? Because of the elements of the world, ego, intelligence, mind, space, air, water, fire, water and earth, all the gross elements are included, their qualities are included in the subtle elements. So in the subtle element of your chitta, of your mind, there is the potential to produce anything. You understand? So the yogi, in the stage of ekagrata, can focus his consciousness like a laser on anything of his choice. And that object appears, and he can attain complete knowledge of that. This is how, in India, the system of Ayurveda, or Ayurvedic medicine, was discovered. They did not learn about biology by cutting open corpses and pulling out the parts and looking at them and drawing pictures. But rather, by doing the samapati, concentration on the various organs of the body, those organs appeared for complete inspection, without chopping anyone up, without dissecting anyone. And their natures also, not only the gross physical properties, they appear, the gross physical properties appear in the first stages of Sampragyata Samadhi. That is called the Nirvitarka. But also, the consciousness can penetrate into the object and understand its subtle capabilities as well. That comes in the stage of Nirvichar. Nirvichar, Sampragyata Samadhi. And in this way, the knowledge of the body, the knowledge of the world, indeed knowledge of the whole universe was collected. Perhaps some of you are familiar with Jyotish, Vedic astrology. So the knowledge was not collected by making all mathematical measurements, but it came in samadhi of a great sage named Parashara. Parasara Muni, he wrote the Shastra, the Jyotish Shastra of India. And he's the father of Vyasadeva, who himself wrote the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata and all the Vedic texts that you are familiar with. So, it's another way of knowing, another way of understanding things. You see? Now, at that stage, the yogi can, at will, begin to develop siddhis, mystic powers. Essentially, he can become a superhero. For example, if he'll focus his concentration on the element of air, then he can take from that element, he can absorb from that element its properties and begin to float. and fly at will in the sky. If he will concentrate on the Manipurak chakra, you see, you have 7 chakras. Beginning from the lowest one is earth chakra, then water, then fire. So, visibility is a quality of fire. Because without fire or light, you cannot see anything. So when the yogi meditates on the Manipurak chakra, he can identify the qualities of fire, the quality of visibility, and at will, he can withdraw that quality. And when his meditation, he withdraws the quality of visibility, then he disappears and becomes invisible. When he meditates on the element of space in the Vishuddha chakra, then because space is the element which accommodates the movement of sound, he develops the ability to hear a conversation in another country, very far away, because he becomes in touch with the element which is the medium for sound and can hear at a distance. In this way, all the senses can be vitalized to superhuman states. These are called yoga siddhis. One can develop tremendous powers. So, all of this is Maya, illusion. You see? Patanjali never tells people that, hey, read my book, you can get all these powers. What he says is, be careful when you're meditating. As your meditation nears perfection, all of these powers will come to distract you from the ultimate goal of transcending the world and discovering your true self. And so, Patanjali has said, the fastest and the most effective and the best way of attaining samadhi is what? Who knows the sutra? Samadhi siddhi? Yes. Where did that come from? Over there. Samadhi siddhi Ishvara pranidhanat. It means the perfection of samadhi comes from the pranidhan, complete surrender to Ishvara, surrender to the will of God. In the Vyas Bhasya, there Patanjali's disciple writes that Ishvara pranidhan means Vishesh bhakti, intense devotion. Intense devotion. Patanjali has also given some sutras to help us understand something. Because some people think that when you go to the state of samadhi by surrendering to God, then you become God. So Patanjali, to help us does not make that mistake, he said, Klesha karma vipak ashaya aparimrishta vishesh purusha ishvara. Who is Ishvara? Ishvara is a Vishesh Purush, an individual conscious being who, aparimrishta, was never touched. It's in the past tense. He was never touched by karma, klesha, vipaka ashaya, and the vehicle of consciousness which carries our karma and our klesha, our material suffering. That means that any yogi or any practitioner today who is practicing his sadhana to rise above the kleshas, the difficulties of life, isn't Ishvara. Because Ishvara is that person who was never touched by these things. Understand? Then he said that the Prachina Purva Guruhu, that Ishvara is the Guru. He is the spiritual teacher of the ancient past masters. What does that mean? That means that those masters who were liberated by the process of yoga did not mix with Brahman and become one and enter into the eternal the light of shunya, nothingness. Because Patanjali said, he is the guru of the past masters. What is the relation between a person and his guru? Service. And so even the past masters who were liberated still exist as individual beings, and they're engaged in the service of that Ishvara. So it's very clear from the sutras, for those whose minds are open enough to take them in their direct meaning without twisting. Because we find that nowadays most of the teaching of yoga has become mixed with the Advaitavad of Shankaracharya. But you should know that Patanjali based his sutras on the metaphysics of Shankya Darshan, which is dualistic. It is not impersonal. And what's more, Patanjali wrote in about the year 400 BC. And Shankaracharya, the father of the Advaitavad, the school of extreme monism, he wasn't born until 788 AD. So there's no question that Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are promoting a state of extreme oneness, but rather a state of oneness that is felt between the soul and the Supreme Lord through love. Not one, but oneness. So Patanjali warns, be careful. By doing tapasya, austerities and so on, these siddhis will come. So even without doing the even without doing the asana, without practicing pranayama, without practicing dharana, dhyan and samadhi, samadhi will come only by Ishvara Pranidhana. Intense devotion to the Supreme. Patanjali expresses this in the beginning, but then he goes on to say that, okay, if you don't have a trust in that, here's the other, I'll tell you the other things. Okay? But they'll produce so many side effects. So in regard to Ishvara Pranidhana, Patanjali tells us that Pranava Vachakaha, the Supreme Ishvara, the all-pervading personal conscious being, is indicated by the syllable Om. It is a name. And the best way of doing Ishvara Pranidhana, developing bhakti to the Supreme Consciousness, is Tad Japas Tad Bhavarta. To do japa, repetition of the vibration of the names of the Supreme Being, while meditating on the deep meaning of those names. So, to sit quietly and repeat the mantras of the various names of God in a spirit of supreme surrender, this is considered to be the highest method of spirituality. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna said, Yagyanam japa yagyosmi. Of all sadhanas, of all practices, I am the repetition of mantra, of the holy names. So that can be done as a personal meditation, and it can be done as a group musical meditation.